No one expected Canada to strike first. Once seen as a dependable ally, it abruptly cut every federal rebate tied to Tesla and froze 43 million Canadian dollars in payments, turning a lifeline into a financial sinkhole overnight. This wasn't some quiet policy shift. It was a thunderclap, a direct message not just to Tesla but to Washington. The markets reacted instantly. Stocks slid, investors panicked. Commentators declared it a Tesla ban, and alliances that once seemed unshakable started to splinter. Was Canada protecting its own economic interests? Or was this a calculated counterpunch? A warning that America's trade aggression would come with consequences. Everyone is watching what's going to happen next, and across the globe, governments and corporations saw the same chilling reality. If Canada could take down Tesla with a single decision, who might be next? Stick around because you will find out something you have never thought about the neighbors to the north. The tariff that blew up the supply chain. From the start, Tesla's tech reputation rested on a fragile balance of resources. While the company prided itself on its American manufacturing facilities, it quietly depended on international suppliers for crucial components. Batteries required rare minerals like cobalt and lithium, much of which came from Canadian and Chinese sources. Advanced parts such as semiconductors, sensors, and lightweight aluminum panels were sourced from European manufacturers. This global network allowed Tesla to build some of the most advanced electric vehicles on the planet. Yet it was also a vulnerability, and that vulnerability became a crisis under the Trump administration's trade policies. The administration had introduced aggressive tariffs on imported goods, arguing that the measures would protect American jobs and punish unfair trade practices. Among these were 25% tariffs on imports from Canada and Mexico, as well as additional levies on European goods. While these policies were meant to bolster domestic industries, Tesla found itself caught in the crossfire. The cost of essential materials rose sharply. Suddenly, the company's tightly controlled production costs began to spiral out of control. Tesla's leadership initially tried to absorb the increased costs, hoping that the tariffs would be temporary. But as months passed, the burden grew heavier. Tariffs added pressure at every stage of production, from raw materials to finished components. In turn, these rising costs forced Tesla to make a difficult choice: raise prices and risk losing customers, or take the financial hit and bleed cash. They attempted both strategies, but succeeded in neither. Prices crept higher, reducing demand, while the company's cash reserves began to dwindle. The impact of the tariffs went beyond dollars and cents. Tesla's once efficient supply chain was now a tangled mess of delays and complications. Factories struggled to keep up with production schedules, and deliveries fell behind. Customers, once loyal to the Tesla brand, grew frustrated with longer wait times and higher sticker prices. What had been a finely tuned operation was now in disarray, and as the supply chain unraveled, a storm was brewing overseas. The Cybertruck, Tesla's most ambitious project yet, faced challenges that no tariff policy could fix. The Cybertruck gets canceled in Europe. The Tesla Cybertruck was introduced with fanfare and high expectations. Its futuristic design, sharp angles, and rugged stainless steel body were meant to set a new standard in the automotive industry. American consumers admired its bold aesthetics and cutting-edge technology. But in Europe, the reaction was starkly different. Regulators and safety experts viewed the Cybertruck not as a symbol of progress, but as a potential hazard. European safety regulations, among the strictest in the world, focus not only on driver protection, but also on the safety of pedestrians and cyclists. The Cybertruck's design, a rigid exoskeleton with sharp corners and an imposing height, was deemed unsuitable for European roads. Unlike traditional cars that incorporate energy-absorbing materials and rounded edges to minimize harm, the Cybertruck was criticized for its inability to meet basic pedestrian safety standards. Regulatory bodies also flagged issues with visibility, weight distribution, and its steering system. As a result, the Cybertruck failed to obtain the necessary certificate of conformity, a critical step for vehicles to be legally sold and operated in European Union member states. Public sentiment in Europe turned against Tesla. Consumers and safety advocates argued that the company had prioritized innovation over responsibility. News outlets featured stories of regulators blocking the vehicle, painting Tesla as an out-of-touch manufacturer unwilling to adapt Social media campaigns fueled the backlash, with European consumers demanding safer, more practical electric vehicle options. Tesla, once a disruptive force in the industry, now found itself on the defensive. The European ban on the Cybertruck sent shockwaves through Tesla's global operations. While the company had hoped to replicate its U.S. success overseas, it now faced a tarnished reputation and a dwindling customer base in key markets. Worse, the fallout in Europe began to inspire similar scrutiny elsewhere. We did the research for you and made a value video for you so you don't have to do the research yourself. We owe you a subscription, right? In the United States, discontent started to spread beyond online comments and social media posts. Tesla's loyal customer base, once its greatest asset, began to fracture. The dealership revolt. For years, Tesla dealerships were hubs of excitement. Customers eagerly placed pre-orders for new models, stood in line for test drives, and proudly displayed their electric vehicles. But that enthusiasm began to erode. A combination of rising prices, production delays, and Musk's polarizing public image fueled resentment. Soon, discontent turned into public protests. Videos appeared online showing Tesla owners smashing their vehicles in symbolic acts of defiance. Hashtags like #boycott Tesla trended on social media platforms, amplifying negative sentiment. Dealerships reported declining foot traffic, unsold inventory, and frustrated customers. Some dealers, overwhelmed by the backlash, chose to temporarily close their doors. This wave of anger wasn't limited to a single demographic. Former fans of the brand, disillusioned by perceived corporate greed and poor service, joined progressive groups criticizing Musk's political stances. Simultaneously, middle-class buyers felt priced out of the electric vehicle market they once believed was their future. The combination of grassroots activism and financial frustration created a perfect storm for Tesla's retail network. As the dealership revolt grew, so did calls for change within the company itself. Tesla employees who had watched their stock options decline and their workloads increase began to question their loyalty. It was only a matter of time before the internal dissatisfaction erupted into full-blown unrest. The cascade of crises, from government retaliation to regulatory failures and consumer boycotts, was transforming Tesla from a symbol of innovation into a cautionary tale. The question now was not whether Tesla could fix these problems, but whether it could survive them. Workers turn on Musk. They poured endless hours into the mission. But when Tesla's shares collapsed, that mission vanished, and with it, their loyalty. Inside cavernous factory floors, the tension grew palpable as rumors spread of wage freezes and evaporating stock options. Some workers had moved cross-country, betting their futures on the dream of limitless growth and generous returns. Now, with share prices tumbling, those once hopeful employees saw their retirement fantasies crash. Unofficial whispers turned into open resentment, and the excitement once fueling extra shifts faded into grim acceptance of longer hours for less reward. The company's response only poured gasoline on the fire. To offset soaring production expenses tied to tariffs and disrupted supply chains, Tesla Incorporated imposed mandatory overtime, but froze wages. Assembly line technicians voiced anger that the overtime pay failed to keep up with inflation, while office staff felt blindsided when they discovered their stock compensation was essentially worthless. Human resources found itself inundated with resignations and frantic calls from managers who could no longer keep shifts filled. Loyal veterans who remembered the early days of direct access to the chief executive officer now described Musk's leadership style as distant and dismissive. In break rooms across Texas and California, talk of unionizing gained momentum. Secret gatherings, held off-site, featured labor organizers who promised to fight for better pay and stable benefits. Even longtime employees, once proud to be part of a visionary team, whispered that Musk's public antics had driven them away. The same corporate culture that had encouraged thinking big now felt cold and transactional, crushing the spirit of those who had given everything for what they believed was a revolution. And as that final wave of disillusionment rolled through every department, the broader market began picking up the scent of desperation. The moment workers lose faith, The financiers who once propped up Tesla Incorporated sense a much larger danger. Wall Street pulls the plug. Tesla once topped every must-buy list. Now the hedge funds cannot dump shares fast enough. Television programs hammered this headline from dawn until dusk, capturing the mood of traders who felt betrayed by Musk's leadership. Once enthralled by the prospect of unlimited growth in electric vehicle production, major investors began unloading Tesla Incorporated stocks with ruthless efficiency. Reports of dangerously low cash reserves circulated, prompting automated sell orders that cascaded into a full-blown market stampede. Crucial backing from pension funds and international banks evaporated almost overnight. With each passing hour, the share price dipped lower, alarming smaller stakeholders who had believed in the company's promise of sustainable energy dominance. The exodus was swift, impersonal, and devastating. Several large funds, unwilling to weather Musk's public disputes and Tesla's ballooning costs, withdrew their capital for safer bets. Meanwhile, suppliers worried about delayed payments demanded money up front, choking off the lifeblood Tesla Incorporated needed for daily operations. Calls for calm from the executive suite failed to reassure anyone. Musk's pronouncements about long-term potential felt hollow when set against a plunging stock chart and rumors of dried-up financing. In high-rise boardrooms, the phrase "no confidence" circulated. It signaled an end to Wall Street's love affair with the once glamorous electric vehicle giant. Traders on the exchange floor likened the sell-off to a run on a fragile bank, unstoppable until there was nothing left to salvage. Yet, for all the chaos in North America, a new opportunity was emerging for a venerable European automaker ready to reclaim its throne. If Tesla Incorporated was stumbling, someone else would inevitably seize the void it left behind. Volkswagen strikes first. While Tesla sputtered, Volkswagen roared ahead, cheaper, safer, and wearing the European Union's stamp of approval. That was how one influential newspaper in Berlin captured the mood. As soon as rumors spread that Tesla's supply chain was in trouble, Volkswagen capitalized on the moment. Locally produced parts, robust government incentives, and an already established dealer network allowed Volkswagen to roll out electric vehicle models that appealed to budget-conscious drivers. Unlike Tesla Incorporated, which struggled with shipping delays and high import fees, Volkswagen promised no extra tariffs and no shortage of essential components. Political leaders in Europe hailed this surge of homegrown innovation. Governments redirected subsidies from Tesla products to Volkswagen fleets, framing it as both an economic boost and a patriotic choice. The media echoed that narrative, showcasing Volkswagen's steady production lines and well-tested technology as superior alternatives to the American brand's recent setbacks. Nearly overnight, drivers across countries like France, Germany, and the Netherlands flocked to buy these new electric vehicles, assured by the trust they had long placed in the Volkswagen badge. Reports of Tesla owners switching allegiances underscored how quickly the mighty can fall. If Tesla's string of misfortunes had taught European consumers one thing, it was that an automaker with strong local roots could more reliably meet their evolving needs. In the span of mere weeks, Volkswagen went from being a contender to a presumed champion of Europe's electric vehicle revolution, further squeezing Tesla out of a market it once planned to dominate. But this reshuffling in Europe was only half the story. On another continent, an even more aggressive challenger was ready to fill the vacuum left by Tesla's downfall. Build your dreams destroys the dream. China was done playing second fiddle. In one swift stroke, Build Your Dreams replaced Tesla as the world's electric vehicle icon. That shift in sentiment swept through investor circles from Shanghai to London. As Tesla's struggles made headlines, Build Your Dreams soared on news of new contracts, robust supply lines, and a vertical integration model that shielded it from the turbulence of international trade wars. Whereas Tesla Incorporated scrambled for raw materials and faced ballooning costs, Build Your Dreams handled every step in-house, ensuring batteries, chassis, and distribution worked in perfect harmony. In Africa, Asia, and Latin America, government officials announced major electric infrastructure deals with Build Your Dreams. Leaders praised the Chinese automaker for offering affordable cars without the drama that surrounded Tesla. Where Musk's public image had grown erratic and controversial, Build Your Dreams projected steady competence. Their marketing campaigns promised reliability and innovation rooted in streamlined technology, winning over consumers ready to abandon the chaotic narrative out of North America. The psychological pivot was just as impactful as the financial one. If Tesla Incorporated once symbolized the future of electric motoring, Build Your Dreams now wore that crown. Internet forums buzzed with excitement over upcoming models. Industries lining up for fleet purchases saw the writing on the wall. When big institutional players agreed that Build Your Dreams was the new champion, Tesla's global prestige slipped further into the shadows. Yet a sharper blow was on the horizon. Canada, having already severed Tesla Incorporated's lifeline once, was preparing a more decisive maneuver. That next move would throttle the very resources needed to build any electric vehicle, ensuring Tesla's troubles went far beyond lost markets. Canada's second strike, resource embargo. Canada used to be a quiet partner. Now it has become Tesla's executioner by blocking the vital metals that Elon Musk and his company rely upon. Observers everywhere are stunned, since these critical materials once flowed south without controversy. Nickel, cobalt, and lithium from Canadian mines had been funneled into Tesla's factories in Nevada and Texas to power electric vehicle production. Under sudden new legislation, those resources are redirected to rivals in the European Union and Build Your Dreams in Asia, leaving Tesla factories scrambling to meet quotas. This move hits at a terrible moment. Tesla is reeling from plunging orders and stock sell-offs. So when shipments of essential battery metals vanish, entire assembly lines begin slowing to a standstill. Layoffs soon follow. Many employees in Texas and Nevada, already anxious about rumors of further cutbacks, now watch as conveyor belts run out of raw parts. Executives attempt to secure alternative sources, but few suppliers trust a company whose fortunes have turned so dramatically. Banks, uneasy about Tesla's dwindling cash buffer, hesitate to approve more credit. Analysts warn that this embargo signals the last stage of a crisis that no longer seems recoverable. Some had believed that Tesla's reputation alone could stave off disaster. Yet that optimism fades with each halted shipment at the border. No stable supply chain, no batteries, and no electric vehicles. Production slows, morale tanks, and the brand itself appears to be running out of time. Fresh troubles loom, especially as Elon Musk's personal image unravels with alarming speed. The collapse of Musk's public image. He was praised as a visionary genius, but whispers of unsteady wildcard now dominate public opinion. Elon Musk's personal reputation has become a growing liability. Social media is ablaze with his provocative comments about Canada's embargo, the European Union's pushback on electric vehicle safety, and even trade partners who once admired his ambition. These remarks do not just stir up controversy, they alienate governments whose cooperation is essential for Tesla's survival. Late-night interviews add gasoline to the flames. Musk openly dismisses concerns about his company's deteriorating finances, insisting that panic is overblown. Viewers are left uneasy when he veers into rants about conspiracy theories, fueling doubts about his ability to steer Tesla through its darkest chapter. Many former fans feel betrayed. They had believed in the charismatic billionaire who promised a sleek electric revolution that would outshine anything from Detroit or Tokyo. Instead, they watch an individual locked in social media feuds, clashing with politicians at home and abroad. The tension between his public persona and the real demands of running a faltering enterprise grows harder to ignore. Worry spreads among investors, who see share prices tumble again whenever a dramatic new interview goes viral. Musk's brand had once been Tesla's greatest advantage, yet that brand is mutating into a cautionary tale. Even some faithful supporters drop their admiration, unsettled by his lack of focus and his combative style. This fading hero narrative is far from a private crisis. It accelerates the company's decline, sending shockwaves that embolden entire nations to cut ties with Tesla. The global market turns. Tesla once represented the pinnacle of clean energy mobility. Now, entire nations are distancing themselves from what they view as a risky bet. Subsidies vanish almost overnight. Officials in the European Union, the United Kingdom, and Asia quietly realign policy incentives toward local automakers. Build your dreams or Volkswagen. Town councils and city authorities, wary of dealing with a struggling manufacturer, walk away from planned fleet contracts that once promised thousands of new electric vehicles on public roads. Municipalities tear up letters of intent, determined to avoid the service disruptions that might come from a partner on the brink of ruin. Charging infrastructure also undergoes a rapid shift. Tesla's once adored network of exclusive superchargers falls out of favor as countries adopt open standard stations that accommodate any electric vehicle brand. It is a stark reversal of fortunes. Just a short while ago, Tesla's technology gave drivers an almost luxurious sense of security on the road. Now, universal networks undercut Tesla's unique selling point, leaving the company without a true competitive edge. The symbolic impact is immense. Fleet managers highlight reliability and cost-effectiveness, finding those qualities lacking in a firm beset by negative press and uncertain leadership. Many highlight an obvious question. If Tesla can barely source materials or reassure investors, how can it reliably maintain infrastructure for thousands of vehicles worldwide? This global market shakeup reveals that the company's downfall is a symptom of something bigger, an unraveling of United States trade policy that extends well beyond one automaker. America's unraveling begins. What began as a seemingly simple tariff push spirals into a colossal backlash. Key partners such as Canada and the European Union intensify their responses. Elected leaders in Germany and Japan forge alliances that bypass the United States. And fresh pacts emerge that sideline American goods. The ripple effects across multiple sectors highlight the magnitude of the blow. Farm exports, industrial machinery, and consumer electronics from the United States are now subject to heavier trade barriers, a direct retaliation against the White House's policy miscalculations. Tensions mount daily. Diplomatic strain reaches a flashpoint. Diplomats from allied nations express open frustration, citing the damage done by an unpredictable approach to tariffs and negotiations. The fiasco with Tesla is broadcast in world media as a cautionary tale. If even America's flagship electric vehicle innovator can be cornered by ill-timed government actions, what hope remains for smaller, less influential enterprises? Public sentiment across the globe shifts. Confidence in United States tech supremacy dims, and the country's international standing weakens. Some had believed the United States would always dominate through innovation and market power. Observers now see a nation struggling to keep allies close. This meltdown prepares the ground for a domestic explosion of discontent. As Tesla workers lose jobs and supply partners face bankruptcy, shockwaves spread to other industries. A workforce rebellion stirs, mirroring the downfall that erupted inside Musk's empire. Meanwhile, politicians in the United States scramble for solutions, knowing that something even larger than an electric car maker is at stake. They sense a fierce reckoning on the horizon, one that could reshape the nation's economic destiny. Labor strikes back. It began at one single assembly plant, where employees stopped their machines and walked out in protest. Word spread quickly, and before anyone could contain the unrest, workers nationwide joined a wave of strikes that shook auto lines, steel mills, and even technology warehouses. They felt pushed too far by plummeting wages, inflation, and a leadership style they deemed dismissive of basic rights. Eager to harness this anger, labor unions unleashed coordinated demonstrations, challenging the idea that executives and shareholders can ignore mounting grievances when a global company's downfall drags everyone else down too. Union organizers seized on rising public outrage toward Elon Musk's empire as a rallying cry, pointing to Tesla's meltdown as evidence that unchecked ambition eventually harms the very communities that invest their time and hopes in corporate missions. Industry leaders panicked. Transportation schedules became unreliable, and freight carriers faced longer delays. News segments showed picket lines stretching across major highways, underlining the scale of disruption. Political figures who once favored big business policies now scrambled to acknowledge the workers' concerns. Union representatives drafted fresh proposals demanding higher wages, improved benefits, and a seat at any negotiation table where trade deals or manufacturing subsidies might be decided. Meanwhile, calls for major legislation to protect worker rights gained traction, and local governments voiced sympathy for the protest movement. This wave of collective action signaled that labor had found a powerful moment to challenge the status quo. Growing tension spilled over into the heart of government, prompting lawmakers to question how the crisis had become so enormous in the first place. The political earthquake. Tesla's collapse transformed into a nationwide referendum on economic strategy. At the center of it stood the president, Donald Trump, who faced stinging backlash over tariff policies that once seemed strong on paper, but triggered unintended chaos. Congressional committees demanded closed-door sessions where trade representatives and former Tesla executives explained how the nation's flagship electric vehicle champion fell into ruin under an administration pledging to protect domestic industry. Confidence in those policies plummeted, and pollsters reported a surge of discontent among voters who believed the trade war inflicted wounds on working families instead of leveling the playing field. Factions in Washington, District of Columbia, pointed fingers at Musk's miscalculations, while others argued that the White House meddled excessively in corporate affairs. Allies overseas began pressuring American diplomats to roll back damaging tariffs before severing key trade ties altogether. Lawmakers were caught between rescuing national pride and preventing a deeper downturn. Public anger ran high on every network, with commentators labeling the Tesla drama a symptom of wider dysfunction in how the United States balances global competition and homegrown innovation. A few politicians pushed for drastic economic reforms, including immediate negotiations with Canada and the European Union, though that suggestion faced fierce opposition from those clinging to an America First approach. Meanwhile, the president's advisors scrambled to reassure battered industries that relief packages and alternative supply routes would be announced soon. Media outlets tracked every shift in policy, hinting at an even more devastating reckoning if the government failed to act. At that very moment, the population's frustration, Tesla's downfall, and entrenched political rivalries collided, creating a firestorm that demanded swift decisions and profound sacrifices. Was this the collapse of one company, or the unraveling of an entire economic strategy built on tariffs, pride, and fragile alliances? What do you think? Let's know in the comments. Thanks.